Very good morning to you. Welcome along to Monday morning's OTB AM. We're here and we're live all the way until 9:30 this morning. And what a weekend of sporting action we've had for you. Most of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today is not actually the stuff that happened on the field of play. That's what happens when the Republic of Ireland captain stops in the mix zone after a Premier League match and gives an explosive interview to none other than our own Nathan Murphy. Seamus Coleman, baby, take it away.
Keith, as I'm sure you'll know, will defend his role now as a pundit and all that, but as a captain, do you take it all more to heart, the criticism as what's been said about the players around you?
Yeah, I do have to bite my tongue at times. You know,
go on, let loose.
No, I won't. No, look, Keith has got a job to do. I think, you know, Keith is really taking the punditry. I think, you know, he might have been, you know, trying to make a name for himself or being a little bit harsh the last night. And you know, that's his job now, that's his role. When he was a player, that it was his job to be a player, it was his job to get on the ball and make things happen, and you know, at times he didn't do that.
Oh, zing, 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 zing. Now, so it seems as if there's a little bit of miscommunication here, because Seamus Coleman said that he said we were the worst Ireland team ever and he would have been part of teams that weren't very good, as in Keith Andrews was part of it. He's talking about Keith Andrews, right? And that's not what Keith Andrews has said. Keith Andrews did say, like, it's been the worst year in a long time. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it really doesn't matter. What's happened here is the Ireland captain has gone in over the ball, 2 feet, straight for the knees of Keith Andrews.
Well, that would suggest that it's not fair game.
The worst year in a long time. Tommy's correcting me, yeah.
Like, going 2 feet over the ball, I think it's more of a robust challenge, gets the ball, and I think the player who he's tackled is just kind of like, fair enough. Oh, I'm kind of shocked by how tough that tackle was, but fair enough, you got the ball. I haven't heard what Keith has to say, but certainly if I was in that position, maybe without the misquoting, it's all fair game there. And you know what? Maybe I'm sure Keith will relish the blasting back at Seamus Coleman, and Seamus Coleman will relish blasting back again.
Well, it's funny because at one point he goes, I think he's trying to make a name as a pundit. It's like, well, his name is made now, baby. This is like, he's got your attention, he's got everybody else's attention. This is it. And like, it's mad because it was just after Jonathan Walters was the pundit over the entire 90 minutes. So Nathan had a good day yesterday.
The best part about it is that it's Seamus Coleman speaking in such a nice manner. Like, everything he says is like, oh, this is a very delightful thing. It's like, wait a minute, what's the content of what you're saying again? It's almost more cutting because Seamus Coleman is saying it in his
so politely and
his nice Donegal accent.
Goaded onto it by Nathan. He's like, no, I'm not going to get carried away. I'm just going to say this again and again. And just in case you missed the point, I'm going to reiterate it a third time. And he comes around for a loop and a loop and a loop. It's like surgical suturing. I mean, look, he's making the point that the team are together, that there's a collective will in the group and the squad, but that we've got a bunch of players in the championship, and I've been injured for a year, Robbie Brady's been out for a year, James McCarthy's been out for a year. That's 3, well, I'm not going to put myself in the same, that's 2 decent internationals right there who've been missing for a year, and we're like, no, it's all right. But you're part of that club. Come on, captain, you can do it. Like, it's a brilliant 4 minutes of post-match analysis of everything that's happened. And he also says that he's seen 3 or 4 managers go at Everton, and he said it before, that the players have to step up and take responsibility, that it's not all just on the manager. Now, all of that stuff is going to get lost in the fact that he's had a go at Keith Andrews. You can see the headline there, Seamus blast back.
Yeah.
Hitting back. Okay, so the Sun didn't...
Then it goes into José and a couple of the back pages and stuff like that.
We'll get to the rest of the back pages in a couple of minutes' time. But look, it was immediately picked up as soon as we put the video live last night. And you can check it on all our social channels, youtube.com/off the ball. You can hit subscribe there. Anytime we put something good like that up, you'll get a notification for it. I don't know, it's just really interesting because, like, he's obviously pissed off, and he's not just pissed off about the quality of the football that he's seen, he's pissed off about the stories around this and how it's being reported, and the fact that it is his former teammates. And look, I think that it's a great sign for Keith and Keith Andrews' career that this is what's going to happen in the future, that his former teammates are going to start calling him out, because that means he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Or he's at least at a level where they're paying attention to him, and that's not been the case for around the Ireland team for the former players for a long time. So I think everybody's a winner in this one.
I think it's certainly exactly, and I think it's certainly a better rebuttal, and it's an actual rebuttal than a certain other pundit who said last week, "Well, who has Keith Andrews managed? How can he slag off the management when he hasn't managed anybody?" It's Robbie Savage, by the way, which and the irony not lost on anybody with that particular tweet. So at least Seamus Coleman's actually addressing him and giving the punditry a bit of respect, and you know, like so much respect for that in terms of sticking up for your own management, and it clearly is just the way this group of players feel, because we've heard it from a number of other players that, you know, the players need to front up and actually take a lot of the responsibility. And to be honest with you, that's probably just the honest view of a lot of these players, that they can do better themselves. So you know what, it's good to see Martin O'Neill fighting back last week, saying I am good. It's good to see Coleman fighting back as well yesterday with that fighting talk, and it would be a lot worse if they were lying down and just saying, yeah, you know what, Keith Andrews is right.
Speaking of fighting, our man Owen was an eyewitness reporter, Eyewitness News, with a shaky hand. You've been out the night before. This is literally Owen's footage.
It's so cold.
Is it freezing?
It is.
Explain what's going on here.
It's the replay in the Kerry County Championship semi-final between Dingle and East Kerry. Started the second half. Bit of needle about 2 minutes before this. Kind of sense that something was going to spill over, and lo and behold, it did, involving all the sideline management of both sides and players from both sides, as you can imagine, and it killed a spectacle, just to say that at the outset. Not that it was an amazing game or anything before that, but what spectacle it was, it absolutely destroyed it, and a lot of people lost a lot of interest in the match hereafter. One player was sent off as a result of this. There is incriminating footage, I think it's fair to say, of a number of... There's another angle here, and you could suggest that perhaps somebody else should have got punishment.
Yeah, we'll get to that angle a little bit later on. Pretty grim stuff where it looks like, and you hear this gasp from the crowd when somebody who's involved in the management of one of the sides is involved in an altercation with an opposition, a young member of the opposition who appears to be kind of standing there watching what's going on. So what we're going to talk about a little bit later on is whether or not there's going to be the same outcry about this, because it's football in Kerry, as there was about the football up the north. I mean, maybe this stuff, because it's in Kerry, they get away with it. What do you think? Well,
don't worry. Like every single reply to that video has either A, been what part of Ulster is Kerry from? B, we need to ban GAA just like MMA, or C, tag Joe Brolly. So, or else it's a combination of those three things. So if you want to do that, feel free to go ahead and do it, but there's been 1,000 people who've already got there before you. We'll
bring you the full Seamus Coleman video, that full 4.5 minutes, speaking with Nathan Murphy after the Everton Crystal Palace game yesterday. We'll play that for you around about 8:10 this morning. I'm going to run you through the newspapers and all the rest of the stuff that's happened. An amazing weekend, really, of sport. Good rugby, good football, good soccer. Some other stories that we'll get to as well if we have time over the course of the next hour and a half or so, talking about the Champions Cup a little bit later on with Daniel Harris. Also looking back a little bit at the situation with José Mourinho, when, you know, suddenly his attacking flair and the brio of the team emerged all of a sudden out of nowhere. And also that, I wonder what would have happened if Mourinho hadn't been stopped from reaching the coach. Would there have been a proper fight? I would like to have seen that. Would anybody have complained if Mourinho had battered the Chelsea coach?
He wouldn't have battered him.
He probably wouldn't have. Well, he might have. He would
have grappled him and choked him out.
Well, I mean, you know, I would consider that a battering. If someone choked me out, I was battered in that. But anyway, we're being semantics here. Right, let's bring you through the sports papers.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Well. Okay, so here we go. Leinster Toulouse. Did you get it?
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah, I get it.
Tab of the morning to you, to the...
Tab of the morning indeed, Toulouse indeed.
The unheralded subs in the Sports Monday section, but they're tab of the morning to you today. Leinster Toulouse holders brought back down to earth. So this was an amazing game of rugby. I don't know if you obviously didn't get to see any of it, but...
I got a good portion of the second half.
Watching on your phone.
Watched all the highlights.
But it was proper end to end. Anytime the ball would suddenly get squirted out like a greased shit into the hands of one of the opposition, there would be an attempted break from inside their own 22, which would get to the halfway line, and then somebody would knock it on, and suddenly there'd be another opportunity. So that's the headline in the front of the Irish Times Sports Monday. FA08's report on Mourinho bust up. I mean, nothing's going to happen, right? I mean, he might be punished. Will he be punished?
It's a disgrace if José Mourinho is punished.
It is.
It's an absolute disgrace if he's punished for that, because it's like, we're going to get into this a little bit later on in a different code, but it's that baiting and that goading of opponents, which, as you know well, is probably my least favourite thing in sport. I absolutely despise it. It makes my blood boil. That if I'd seen your man Yanni, or I see a few people referring to him as Laurel online as well, which I found quite amusing. But no, his name is Yanni, and running past José Mourinho didn't react. I would have said that's a sackable offence
From Mourinho.
to not react. But he did react, and he held up his own pride. Absolute idiot running in front of him, goading like that. Like, what sort of human being's first reaction is to channel their happiness into a way that incites the opposition into reacting in an angry way? Like, what? I don't get it, because it's so commonplace. I really don't know. Like,
You're not saying this is in any way similar to what Simon Zebo did, are you?
no, not at all.
Okay,
No.
that's grand.
I'm not. When I meant other code, I meant GEA, because there's a lot of goading going on with that.
Oh,
The
was
Zebo
there?
thing is very different.
There was a lot of going on in the East Kerry Dingle.
Yeah, there was, but as a matter of course, I think it's more of a general thing as well that seems to be going on, baiting the opposition. The Zebo thing is different, in my view. How different is it? I'm not so sure. I think also as well the fact that Simon Zebo kind of apologising afterwards. You've got to kind of take that as well, no?
Oh, yeah, I think he didn't need to apologise. It was a massive hill of beans about nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I think with Zebo, there's been a lot of anger because it was Michael Lowry he pointed at. Like, we spoke about Lowry last week. 5'7" guy doing good things on the rugby pitch, making all of us feel a little bit happier about ourselves. He's been probably one of the feel-good stories of the Champions Cup so far, and to see Zebo pointing at him, it was kind of like, oh, don't pick on Michael Lowry sort of thing. And I think that sort of helped fan the flames a little bit around Simon Zebo. I think as well what seemed to fan the flames is the sort of dormant dislike of Simon Zebo, which I kind of forgot existed.
Oh, it's all over the place, yeah.
I completely, like, if you go back 2 years, it was kind of like peak Zebo as a divisive figure. And I've kind of forgotten about that. I think he, in his closing days in Munster, I think as a nation, we had all been like, yeah, Zebo's great.
It took a while to get there.
Yeah.
So the Examiner is interesting today because this is the front cover of the main Examiner. Tight rain, Toulouse halt Leinster march across Europe, though not for long, says Donal Lenihan. The back page of the Examiner is, I don't know if you can make out this photograph. So can you make that out there? So that is Mayo Secretary Kevin McDonnell giving Carnachan's Cora Staunton her Player of the Match award after the Mayo Senior Football Championship final win over Knockbore yesterday. Remember, they didn't really want her to be playing in this game. If they could just make one thing happen this summer, it'd be not to have the best player in the history of Gaelic football playing for her club in the club championship match after everything happened this summer.
That is an awkward photo, isn't it?
That's like brilliant. That's like the photograph of the year. That is sports photograph. I'm putting this one straight up there. Sports photograph of the year. It is. Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. Congratulations. There, you won the county final. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. I mean, they're probably going to win the All Ireland now, are they?
Well,
I mean, certainly. If ever a club team had a cause that they used to unite themselves, not that they weren't united already, but
they didn't really need a cause, Carnachan, to be quite honest, particularly when it came to the Mayo Championship.
they're already pretty good. Yeah. But they've got one now. So anyway. We'll try and get that picture blown up a little bit bigger for you later on. But I just want to, so the Examiner, as we know, does the best job of covering the club championships around the country. This is the front of their club section. I want to remember Clonulty Rossmore claimed first tip title in 21 years. Dingle Delight, Gainey on fire, Clifford off in stormy Kerry semi. David Clifford is the most famous young footballer in the country at the moment, and he got sent off yesterday, and his brother got sent off. And amidst some of the most outrageous scenes that we've seen at a club match all year, right? Now, there have been loads of outrageous scenes, but this is the biggest game. It's like the Kerry semi-final. It's East Kerry, like the team of superstars, against Dingle, a team of superstars, right?
Yeah.
Both of these teams have a chance of...
Again, he's against David Clifford. Like, it's absolute box office stuff. And it was set up to be, I was really excited for the second half. A lot of people, anybody who was watching yesterday were like, oh, it was over by half-time. Maybe it was, but... Like, as you say, there is sort of a glamour to the Kerry County Championship because of these divisional teams, because of the fact that you mould a lot of potential dormant talent together in East Kerry that can challenge a team like Dingle.
And it's a replay, right?
It's a replay.
So, but I don't know, the fight doesn't really the fight is not the main part of the story. It is the main part of the story, right?
But it's interesting. Like I got a few tweets off people yesterday, like saying, "Put your phone away. Don't be videoing that."
Tout was my favourite.
Tout? Well, I think Tout and the fella, your man from Michael Collins, the informant journalist, was screenshotted and sent to me as well, which I thought was particularly funny. But that was obviously a joke. But like some people,
I mean, I don't think
it was a joke.
I don't think. Oh, it's not a joke.
No, I think I looked at
I'd be watching my back next time you go home for a pint.
It was a joke, but there was some people seriously like, "Oh, put your phone away and watch the game," or people being like, "Well, this isn't part of it. There's clearly a rush to actually upload videos and stuff from Gaelic football matches," and it's like, I think there should probably be a rush when this sort of stuff happens in Kerry, because it definitely changes your view when it's your own. Because I was kind of thinking hypothetically, what would happen? Would I be as angry about GAA Brawls if it happened to a team that I support? Like, I was there to support East Kerry yesterday, and it turns out that I'm actually more angry because it's one of my teams. It completely, this idea of it destroying a spectacle, I used to think was complete bullshit as a commentator's line, where I say a commentator said about José Mourinho on Saturday, well, it's disgraceful scenes, we don't want to see this in the game. And personally, I'm looking at that, I'm like, of course we want to see this in the game, this is amazing. But when it's your own team and when you're there to support them and you're like, you want them to see a comeback, and you see this sort of scene that involves a brawl over by the sideline, it's really, really tough to watch. And it was only yesterday when I kind of realised, it was like, actually, this is the first time I've actually been supporting a team who've been involved in something like this. And it's crap, really. It's not nice, and like I think that sort of stuff has to be called out. And
shouldn't Dingle and East Kerry be kicked out of next year's championship?
Well, we've been saying it on the show. Like, I would be a hypocrite to say that it shouldn't be. I would be a hypocrite to say that that's not the solution. The thing now is, when I look at it and like being completely partisan, I would make the argument that is unfair on them because nobody else around the country is being thrown out.
Well, the two teams from Darren got thrown out.
Well, that's a good point. Therefore, like, the whole umbrella of the GAA should probably take responsibility and say, well, you should be thrown out. The thing is, yesterday, like, I'm not sure who would have called this out otherwise. Like, the match reports are kind of black and white and say, well, David Clifford got sent off, Buddy Clifford got sent off. There was a bit of a melee.
If footage didn't exist on social media, this would not be a story.
Exactly.
So, now, in fairness, there's a few comments in Murphy's report from the East Kerry manager, Jerry O'Sullivan. Was disappointed the way things turned out in the second half and could barely contain his frustration. Disappointment was my first emotion, because that's not what I envisaged and that's not what would have happened today. I've learned over the years to be diplomatic, and I'm going to be diplomatic now. I don't advocate my teams getting involved with any of the rough stuff. He goes on to say I asked to go out and play. But if you look at the first 3 games East Kerry played this year, there wasn't an incident. I will leave people draw their own conclusions, but I wasn't beating any drum at half-time telling my lads to go out and rough anybody up. Nothing from the Dingle side, nothing from the Dingle management about the involvement of their players and their sideline in the incident. So it'll be interesting to hear from them in the aftermath. But like,
just as a counterpoint to that, like, I have seen some discourse yesterday saying, well, there was a bit of needle last week and there's a bit of needle this week, and who got players sent off this week? East Kerry. So it was clearly East Kerry's fault. So that's the counterpoint to that. Jerry O'Sullivan there speaking after the game. I'm surprised he actually has the ability to speak after the game, because he got sent off yesterday. I'm pretty sure he was just standing by watching the whole thing, and the referees were like, well, there was a guy in a red tracksuit top there. East Kerry and Dingle both have red tracksuit tops that was involved, so both managers get off, you're both being sent off. And I thought it was a bizarre decision, but I would need to see the tape back. The thing is, footage exists of this in far more detail. Dingle play Dr. Crokes in the county final next Sunday. Now, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure Dr. Crokes are one of the best equipped clubs in the country. Would they be filming that in close detail yesterday to get a head start on their opponents? Of course they are. Do they then have the best chance of having exact footage of what happened there yesterday? Of course they do. I would be shocked if exact footage doesn't exist of this instead of my crappy portrait filming. I'm not going to make an Oscar-winning cinematographer, but I'm sure somebody had a camera on a tripod there yesterday filming for their top-class opponents next weekend. But I wouldn't be holding my breath to see that footage come out.
There was tweets Digger sent us this last night after the footage that you'd posted from Paul Brennan, who is works with the Kerry Man.
Yeah, sports editor of the Kerry Man.
Okay, this is from the first game, from the drawn game. Far too many hangers-on around the sideline, all too keen to pile in when a row starts on the field. That shit needs to be stamped out. One sideline hero was first in about 3 times when something kicked off. Really looking forward to the replay next week. And the final comes the following Sunday. So, accurately predicted by Paul Brennan what was going to happen. And when you see the footage, I mean, we've got other footage which we'll show you a little bit later on from the near sideline. You can tell that it is a bunch of people in tracksuit tops and management or of that age group who are actually fanning the flames as opposed to coming in and acting peacemaker. All of those people who are not involved in the field of play, who enter the field of play when there's a fight, should be banned for 2 years. The teams should be thrown out from the championship for a year in all grades. And now this has to go to
complication though is throwing East Kerry out of something, which.
Well, this has to go to Congress, right?
Yeah, it does.
Like and remove. So we had Jack Anderson on last week, and he was making the point about making this essential decision. Something like this happens, take it out of the local county, because obviously the local county board are going to be like, well, I mean, are we going to piss off the best footballer in the country and everybody who plays with them and the Gainies and everybody else from these two clubs? We're not. You're incapable of doing it. But like, look. It turns out people don't care about this stuff. They don't care about this stuff. The people, the GAA family doesn't give a shit about this, because if they did, they'd be doing something about it.
Yeah, it's true. Like, it also comes back to this conversation that we've been having for months now about the standard of refereeing around these games being absolutely horrendous. To a certain extent, the referees are powerless to do anything in this, but they're not helping themselves when they pluck out one player with the only red card from that brawl afterwards, which again seemed a strange decision. I can't say for sure. Maybe there was a strike from Paulie Clifford in that situation and he deserved to go, but I'm not sure quite how the officials managed to pick one fella out of that. And like as you say, some of the scenes on the sideline involving management were just appalling.
Leinster pay price for bad habits. Cullen says champions took eye off the ball in 28-27, lots to lose, but vows to bounce back after international break. So the next two fixtures for Leinster are obviously the back-to-backs at Christmas against Bath. Maxime Merdard, we were talking about his amazing mutton chops last week and just how, you know, at the centre of a lot of difficult moments in Irish rugby history, there's Maxime Merdard, just mutton chops.
The thing is, let's call a spade here. I would hate to be, I think being Toulouse coming to Dublin for that rematch in January is probably the least favoured. Like, I would hate to be any other sports team less than that Toulouse team coming to Dublin in January.
I know, it's going to be a great game. They're
going to get pulled apart by Leinster on a revenge mission. It's going to be
but they're Toulouse.
Ugly. If they're going, like, Leinster are already incredible, but now Leinster, when they're angry, are going to be even more incredible. Although I did find it interesting yesterday, Rhys Ruddock speaking about how Leinster approached the game and how they wanted to get the game more into a uniform state, that when they kicked into the backfield and when chaos erupted, Toulouse just loved that and they loved throwing the ball around. But I thought Leinster were supposed to be this team that were comfortable in chaos and that were supposed to be...
look at you.
What?
Throwing their own stuff back at them.
Well, no, it's just a curious thing. I thought I would love to have seen this comfort in chaos, because Rhys Ruddock afterwards says they didn't want that chaos.
We got a little bit carried away with ourselves. Complacency cost Leinster as Toulouse sent champions crashing back to earth. And then Castlerahan win first Cavan title. I think it's their first ever for Castlerahan. I hope I'm saying that right. The Katie Taylor stuff was pretty interesting. So Katie Taylor wins every round of 10 rounds, wins 190 on the scorecards. And then afterwards she says that during the fight she can hear her opponent's husband, who is her coach, trash talking Katie Taylor about how, oh, you're fighting the wrong woman, we're going to get you the next time. He also trains Taylor's opponent's sister, who is apparently younger and better. But he's like trash talking Katie Taylor by talking down his wife in the middle of the fight that he's trained her for. I mean, that is some fucked up shit right there. I hope that the wife turns around and goes, "Excuse me, what did I hear you say?" And that I hope that the two sisters decide that this guy is not the coach for them or the person who should be involved in managing their career. But anyway, we'll see.
But keep the marriage going is what you're suggesting.
I mean, I don't. Maybe
it's purely professional.
Maybe some things run their course.
His disrespect of his wife is purely professional. Nothing personal. I just got to make your sister a few bob.
Talk to me now. All right, what do you got?
Got the Daily Mail. Hitting back, reads the back of the Irish Daily Mail this morning. Coleman blasts Andrews over his Ireland jibes. And Toulouse hand blues a reality check, says John Fallon.
Hang on. Two different covers. Two different front covers there. Can we stick up the English one again? So that was the English Mail that we had there. It was José's mole hunt. Mourinho investigation into how United lineup was leaked. I mean, shut up, José, shut up. It's like you're in the middle of something. So the Irish Daily Mail is obviously a bit different.
Yeah, they've gone for Coleman because, you know...
It's dynamite. It
is dynamite. He's hit back at his former teammate Keith Andrews. Accusing him of trying to make a name for himself, I think, is the line. And he just says it in such a matter-of-fact way. It's like, you got to have respect for Keith Andrews. He's got to make a name for himself. He is a pundit. That's the way punditry works. and it's his honest belief, and maybe Seamus Coleman one day will be making a name for himself as a pundit as well. And
I'd say Coleman's going to be a manager. He has the bang of a manager,
true.
isn't he?
Yeah.
And, like somebody who you could really get behind as a manager.
Yeah, he is going to be a manager, isn't he?
Can we get him into the coaching ticket straight away? Player coach,
that would be ideal.
captain, coach, manager.
Does he get paid for that role?
I mean, yeah, come on.
Or does he do it voluntarily? The back page of the Herald is going with the same story. Seamus blasts back. Coleman hits out at Andrews' criticism, while United will be angry for a visit of old boy Ron. So Cristiano Ronaldo back at Old Trafford this week in the Champions League. Back page of the Sun this morning is show him more respect. Sarri's rap for José hating fans. And Mart of the Plan, Seamus Coleman has backed Martin O'Neill and told outspoken critic Keith Andrews he is never so hot himself. And you've also got a couple of other stories here. Katie victory, a snore point. Poch in win or bust place. Mauricio Pochettino is urging his Spurs stars to show how much they've grown in their must-win Champions League showdown at PSV Eindhoven. And Bridge Rock blow for United. And Jose Mourinho sweating after a potential FA charge after his reaction on Saturday. Does Jose Mourinho automatically deserve to get suspended, judging by the book, leaving his technical area?
He didn't get that far. He gets down the tunnel. I mean, the game's not over. I mean, maybe. I'm sure there are 1,000 different ways to prosecute managers after a game if you want to. You can find in the rule book whatever you want, but they should let that go and say, right, look.
Did Alan Pardew ever get suspended for goading an opposition manager? I'm talking about Yanni here in this situation, who I presume will get banned because he clearly left his technical area. And I think that should be the first course of action to try and get him suspended, but I don't know. Poor Jose is what I'm trying to say. Back of the Irish Daily Star is appalling. The headline is appalling. The back of the Irish Daily Star is quite good.
Fair play to them, yeah.
Physio called violent scenes a disgrace. Clifford sees red in heated Kerry Senior Football Championship clash. Jose may face a ban is also a story here in the back page of the Irish Daily Star. And Celtic Tiger, Conor McGregor has called on Katie's handlers to make her the wealthiest female star in combat sports. And Coleman hits back is the other story there.
DAZN.
Yeah.
That's how we're saying it.
Yeah, that is the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really. It's DAZN.
DAZN.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. All right, but okay, so it's DAZN with the short initials DAZN because, people can't spell these days. But anyway, they're talking her up. They're saying that she's going to be part of this massive $1 billion deal that has been done, that she's going to make loads of money. She might have to fight for the 10 years, but she's going to make loads of money.
Yeah, the thing is, I wonder, does DAZN turn her into the trash talker? Is there a stipulation where it's Katie Taylor, you got to understand the fight game a little bit more? Whereas I think she's carved out a perfect niche for herself by not being the loudmouth, brash boxing figurehead.
In the 7th round, I think it was yesterday, she kind of dropped her hands.
Didn't seem Katie Taylor to me.
Oh, come on, who cares? And it's absolutely Katie Taylor. It's I'm boxing the head off you here. Come and have a fight with me. It's absolutely the right thing for her to do at that point. And afterwards, people were like, "Oh, you can't be doing that now, Jesus."
I'm not.
Jesus, now who? Oh, Jesus.
I'm not pontificating about it. I'm just saying that just doesn't seem like her character. I haven't really seen her do that.
I think she's done it before. Actually, I could be corrected on that, but I'm not surprised. Give us more, Katie. Absolutely, go for it. That's what I'm saying. Simon Zebo, yeah, go on. Point out the fact that you're about to. Go on.
Can't do that in rugby, though.
Well, apparently you can't, because the referee calls you out on it.
Yeah, there was...
Makes it all about him.
Well, the thing is, Nigel Owens, of course, didn't know he was wearing a microphone as he was correcting Simon Zebo. He was doing it for the good of the game. Back page of the Mirror is Seamus returns, then hits back at Andrews. And it's too bad to lose 28, Leinster 27 in the Champions Cup yesterday. And a couple of the UK back pages this morning. It's all about Formula 1 at the moment. Chasing the party, Hamilton forced to wait for his 5th Formula 1 world title after Raikkonen snatches his first Grand Prix win in over 5 years. It's a matter of time really, for Lewis Hamilton to win his 5th championship.
Kimi Raikkonen about 600 years old.
I would say he's getting on a bit, certainly moving into his 6th century at this point. Champagne on ice for British ace after Raikkonen wins in Austin, says the back of the Guardian then. And new spot fixing claims, England cricketers alleged to be involved in betting scams.
All right, here is Seamus Coleman speaking with Nathan Murphy in the aftermath of Seamus Coleman's successful return from injury for Everton against Crystal Palace yesterday. Have a look.
You played the full 90 today. Were you touch and go for Tuesday night? Was there ever the possibility?
Unfortunately not. I didn't start training until later this week, and it was one of them injuries. I tried probably to get back for the Fulham game, which would then make me available for internationals. And I'm 30 now, and I still don't learn. I still try and rush things, and I probably rushed it a little bit too soon, a bit too eager to try and get back for the Ireland games, and unfortunately I couldn't make it.
You were in and around the camp for the 2 games. What was your overall assessment of the 1 point from the 2 matches?
Look, it was disappointing. I thought the performance was better against Denmark. We started well against Wales, but ultimately you want to win the games, and we didn't do that. We were disappointed. I do think that we're going through a transition period at the minute. We're playing lads, from the championship, and they're all coming into the team. They're all trying to understand what international football is about, and it's a transition period, and we have to use these Nations League games to get us ready for March, which is really important.
We had your Ireland teammate John Walters on commentary today, and he was talking about your leadership qualities, how you very much lead by example. When you're not able to play for those Ireland games, do you still have a role in the dressing room? Are you still talking before the games?
You try. It's not where I want to be. I want to be on the pitch. I want to be helping the team. I want to be helping the manager at all times. And it's a duty that I have as captain to try and make myself available to fly over, even if I'm not playing for the games. And I love playing for my country. I love everything to do with Ireland. And we just need to bounce back and try and give everyone something to be happy about.
Yeah, you say transition period. A lot of criticism and a lot of pressure coming on Martin O'Neill, which I'm sure you're hearing. What do you make of it all?
Look, it's the way the game is now. Pundits have a job to do. I heard Keith saying it's the worst Ireland team he's seen in a long time, and I'm not quite sure about that. We're going through a tough time, but Keith has been part of teams himself that could have been questioned at times. So very easy from a pundit's position, and we've just got to do our job, and we are a group that's together. We are playing players that are in the championship. I know you could say the same about other nations, but we're all behind the manager. Sometimes, and I said it here at club level, sometimes players get away with murder. It always seems to be putting the manager's toes, and that's something that really bugs me. Even at club level, I've seen 3 or 4 managers go now, and it always seems to be them who gets the heat. It's never the players, and sometimes we need to stand up and be counted for, and some of our performances have not been good enough.
Keith, as I'm sure you'll know, will defend his role now as a pundit and all that, but as a captain, do you take it all more to heart, the criticism as what's been said about the players around you?
Yeah, I do have to bite my tongue at times. Go
on, let loose.
No, I won't. No, look, Keith has got a job to do. I think Keith is really taking the punditry. I think he might have been trying to make a name for himself, or being a little bit harsh the last night, and that's his job now. That's his role. When he was a player, that it was his job to be a player. It was his job to get on the ball and make things happen, and at times he didn't do that. So it's difficult. It's for players, we're all together. We want to be as passionate as we can for our country, and sometimes it is hard to take that criticism, and Keith would say the same. When he was a player, he would have got plenty of criticism, and he would agree that it was hard to take. So we need to stick together. We need to give the fans something to be proud of, and 100% at the minute our performance have not been good enough, but come March we're hoping to give the country some big nights again, and I think this group of players has done that at times.
And John was saying that Robbie Brady could be back for the Denmark game. James McCarthy, I think, is coming back towards the under-23s. There might be a bit more experience on the pitch. You'll obviously be available as well.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy to forget that. I've been injured for a year, and look, Matt Doherty's come in and done great as well, but I've been injured basically for a year. James McCarthy's been out for a year. Robbie Brady's been out for a year. That's three two lads. I don't want to be putting myself in that bracket. Decent players for their country, and I think a lot of teams would struggle to deal without that. And look, I understand pundits have a job to do. They aren't happy with the way we play or the way we perform, but we can't take our eye off the ball, and we need to get together and keep going and try and give the fans something to be happy about.
You've been very good with your time. Go back to the family.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I feel much happier about the future of the international football team now that Seamus Coleman is back and talking like that, and talking about the players coming back. It's interesting that he did obviously feel so pissed off by the criticism around the team that he felt the need to bite back at Keith Andrews.
Maybe the point is that, and the thing that offends a lot of those players, and rightly so, is that when we talk about Ireland, we talk about underperformance, we get frustrated ourselves in how poor the football is to watch, and I think that kind of speaks to a level of underperformance, and that often speaks to a lack of effort, or it can be perceived as such. And that's the thing that really gets to football players, if we're kind of saying, well, they're not even trying, they can be doing so much better, or why is this failing so badly? And maybe that's the thing that's getting to Coleman and to a lot of those players, that it may seem that the whole discourse is that you're not even trying.
Yeah.
And that isn't really the case.
No. I mean, so just to reiterate, Keith Andrews, for people who are just joining us, Keith Andrews did say that this has been the worst year in a long time. Not that this was the worst team that Ireland have had in a long time. And, like, you know, famously, Eamon Dunphy didn't say he was ashamed to be Irish back in 1990 after the Egypt 0-0 draw. Like, people mishear things, and that becomes a huge part of the story. So I wonder if part of this is just he misheard something, misread something, and then it grows into this bubble of anger. Notwithstanding that, the main thrust of this is that the team are unified, and they have a captain and a leader. And, like, they've clearly been missing him as captain and leader over the last year.
Yeah, definitely. And they've got a leader as well at the very top, you would suspect as well. And, like, I go back to what Martin O'Neill said last week. Like, you can give out about how he approaches every single game all you want, but that little show of defiance with the Ridden Press last week, that was an encouraging sign as well. That's another act of defiance, another encouraging sign. Next thing, an act of defiance in terms of wrestling Declan Rice, putting him on a ferry and bringing him back to Ireland, and putting an Ireland jersey on him. That's the final act of defiance, and we're back on the bandwagon.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it could be deck chairs in the Titanic in terms of defiance, or it could be a turning point for Ireland. We'll see. Let's go back to the Premier League and to the Champions League. Daniel Harris is with us this morning. Daniel, out of nowhere, it looks like José Mourinho has discovered exactly what that Manchester United team should be, and then has turned away from it like, oh no, you're too good. We can't play this good football. We can't be the attacking brio and flair that we've just shown, surely?
I'm not sure, because it felt like if he didn't learn from Newcastle, then he was never going to learn. So then against Chelsea, he picked an attacking team, and then they didn't go out and attack. And whether or not that was his doing, or whether that was a lack of confidence from them, or a bit of both, it's hard to know. But then again, they improved significantly in the second half. So again, I guess we're saying the same thing. If that doesn't show him, then nothing will. So we'll probably see against Juventus. And at least, even if they aren't playing quite the same way, what the other element that needs to change and yet stay the same is that he needs to stop playing with the team. He plays different formations and different players all the time, and often during games. And now, it's been like this for a year and a half, where you're almost thinking he just needs to settle on something. And even if it's not quite the right formation to get the best out of the squad and not quite the right personnel, it will still be better than if he's changing, constantly searching.
Yeah. It's mad that he's still constantly searching at this point. Is that just because that's the type of manager he is now, that ultimately there's a bit of OCD with him, that he can't fix in his own head what it is that he's trying to achieve?
It's a bit of that, and also there probably isn't a right answer. There isn't a combination of the players that he has in his squad that will make the team as good as he wants them to be, because they aren't good enough to challenge. They're not as good as Manchester City. I think that there is a way of finding the best players in that squad and the best team that would mean they could finish second again. But there isn't a team that could win the league in that squad, and so he's constantly looking for it. Whereas really what he needs to do is he needs to try and work out what his best combinations are within the team and what gives him the best way of maximising what he has. And even though they came second last season, I don't really think we saw that. We saw a few decent performances, some brilliant goalkeeping, and a lot of frustration.
I think when you look at Manchester United and you look at the attacking options they have and how that forces José Mourinho to perhaps one day kind of settle for a more positive outlook. A conspiracy theory I have is this is all part of Ed Woodward's master plan, that during the summer he said to himself, well, José Mourinho has always played defensively, even with good attackers. That's because he's always had very, very good defenders to work with. So he withheld the cash on deadline day to sign Toby Alderweireld or whoever it may be, Diego Godin or whoever they were going for on deadline day, to say to José Mourinho, well, actually, you've got a top-heavy squad, go and attack with it. I want this club to play attacking, attractive football.
I don't think Ed Woodward gives a solitary one about the kind of style that United play. But I agree with you in a different way that I felt like when Mourinho came that first summer and he bought Zlatan, Bailly, Pogba and Mkhitaryan, it seemed like he was buying players so that he couldn't regress to the mean, so that he would be forced to play good football, because with the players that he bought himself, how are you going to manage anything else? But again, he confounded all the doubters and he found a way. But I think now it's going to be difficult for him. I think that there are still a couple of changes that might make things significantly better. I would say that if he could get Matic out of there and get Lukaku out of there and bring in Sanchez and Fred, then he'd have a team that would really be worth watching, and it would be almost impossible for them not to be worth watching. But those two players are hindering the kind of football United are going to play, because you have Matic who takes the ball off the back four, and he doesn't pass the ball quickly, he doesn't pass the ball forward all the time, he doesn't pass it incisively, and that's quite an important role in the team. And what he also doesn't do is he doesn't run around speeding up the game. And then up front, you've got Lukaku. And actually, the kind of striker, if Mourinho's going to play two wide players like Martial and Rashford, which it seems like he's going to have to, at least for the next bit, actually, if you want a big lump of a striker, then someone like Olivier Giroud would have actually been a better fit, because at least the ball doesn't bounce off him quite as frequently. But if United could put Sanchez through the middle, then you might see something a bit more fluid and a bit more incisive, because Lukaku is not playing well at the moment. His touch isn't there. You don't get any sense that he's likely to score when an opportunity comes his way. And the thing with him is he doesn't score difficult ones, and he's not a one really. I mean, occasionally, obviously. So I don't want anyone to say, well, look at this one, because obviously everyone sometimes scores difficult ones. But in general, he scores high percentage finishes, hit hard with the side of his foot or headers. He's not a one chance, one goal bloke either. And if you're playing in this United team, you sort of have to be that, because you don't get a lot of chances and you don't get a lot of clear-cut chances either. So if they were to maybe have a go at Sanchez at centre-forward, then they might see something a bit more interesting, because defenders wouldn't always know where people are going to be, because you've got a bit more opportunity to interchange there. You've got Sanchez, who's a bit more off the cuff than Lukaku, and I just guess that if defenders would much rather mark Lukaku than any of the other forwards that United have available.
I mean, it does. You mentioned Fred. It does beg the question of, like, what is the thought process behind these signings, and like, is Mourinho the man who is ultimately responsible for making these signings, or is somebody else buying these players? What's going on?
Well, I think it's quite easy. I understand why he signed Lukaku. He needed a centre forward, and he needed to replace. Zlatan scored 20-something goals. He needed to replace those goals in a team that, even with Zlatan's goals, wasn't scoring enough. So the players on the market at the time there was Morata, there was Lukaku, and if it was one of those two, he certainly made the right decision. And I mean, there was Aubameyang as well, who maybe could have been bought for a lot of money, but Lukaku was significantly younger, experienced in the Premier League. So although Lukaku certainly wasn't my idea of a Manchester United centre forward, I can see why, given the options available, Mourinho bought him. Looking with hindsight, I mean, I say with hindsight because I didn't want Lukaku at the time, but I totally see why Mourinho bought him. With hindsight, what he maybe could have done was spent all the money, or a lot of the money, on a winger and tried to turn Martial or Rashford into a proper centre forward. But Mourinho likes a big man up front, and those two aren't that. And as for Rashford, his finishing isn't that good, although he does have the ability to score the difficult ones, which Lukaku doesn't. And Martial doesn't really make the runs of a centre-forward, and often doesn't look inclined even to make the runs of a centre-forward. So I do understand why he bought Lukaku. I understand why he bought Matic. He wanted someone reliable. He wanted some physical presence. He wanted someone he knew, except, like, Matic just isn't good enough. If you play in that position, you've either got to have the athleticism, like someone like Fernandinho, you've got to speed the game up, or you've got to be able to pass the ball quickly forward like Jorginho or like Michael Carrick. And Matic was neither of those things. So that begs the question, if he's so averse to leaving Matic out, and I don't think Matic has been left out of a single game since he's been at United for reasons of anything other than fitness or resting him, then why did he buy Fred? Because if you assume that Matic is going to play every game and Pogba's going to play every game, it seems unlikely that he's going to put Fred into that three. So given that he had limited funds last summer, to go and spend 50 million quid or whatever it was on Fred, I don't know what his plan was for Fred, because for me, Fred was the player who would play more like Michael Carrick. He would sort of a cross between Fernandinho and Carrick, in that he'd give you some energy, but he also looks to pass the ball forward quickly, and he can run with the ball. So it's hard to know what's going on there. Perhaps he's just settling into the Premier League, but it also just seems unlikely that at any point this season he's going to be picked ahead of Matic.
The aftermath on Saturday obviously got a lot of attention, and I think it's just classic José Mourinho in terms of how he managed to manipulate the whole situation. There was just a glimmer of the high ground available in José Mourinho's eye line, and he darted straight for it, and he managed to pin his flag down and take that moral high ground so effectively. It was so beautiful, so classic José Mourinho. I'm not sure about you, but I greatly enjoyed his post-match comments.
Yeah, it was excellent. I mean, the thing is it's just really that steward who ruined everyone else's enjoyment, because imagine if Mourinho had actually got him, what would then have happened? Because it felt like a bit of a hold me back situation. It didn't look like, if it came to it, Mourinho would be able to have the guy whose name now escapes me. But I would not be backing Mourinho if that actually became a row. But I mean, it's very hard to get agitated by that kind of stuff, because that's part of what we love about football. It's the opportunity to give it out when something goes your way, but not just to properly put it in someone's face. And I would never particularly complain about what was done when Mourinho does it, when it's done to Mourinho. It's just I guess it's part of the emotion and sentiments that we get to enjoy and express during football. And I mean, there is part of me that kind of thinks about what Matt Busby said and said there should be no conceit in victory, no despair in defeat, and how, that kind of honour is, in its way, also a beautiful thing. But I guess it's not really how we relate to football these days, and the way that we relate to football these days is no less beautiful. So, but I agree that the way that Mourinho made that about his own virtue was spectacular in its delicacy, and yet also in its transparency. But he was helped, in fairness, by Sarri, who was very willing to play along and chuck his own guy under the bus. I'm not quite sure why he did that, but he was a willing accomplice to elevate Mourinho.
I mean, I think he did it because he understands exactly that's the right way to manage the situation and to come out. Because, like, in 3 weeks' time, we'll be like, oh, sorry, actually handled that very well, didn't he? You know, get out in front of it, kill the story stone dead, made sure that actually this isn't something that rumbles on here. And I don't know. Sarri's pretty clever. He's been doing a really good job, and kind of a slightly underrated job so far, as, like, you know, having rescued Chelsea from the brink.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He's made it go away effectively, and that was probably what he needed to do. But he has done a good job. I mean, I think that he's right in that Chelsea aren't going to win the league this season, and he knows that, and so it probably makes sense for him to say so. I mean, it's hard to say that they're over-reliant on Eden Hazard, because if you have players that good, of course you're going to be over-reliant on them, because that's why you have them. That's why they're that good. But I was kind of surprised to see Morata playing and not Giroud. I imagine United's defenders would have been quite happy to see that. And I feel like he probably won't have been happy with the way his team responded once United decided to start playing. So what he needs to do probably is kind of find a way of playing properly when Hazard is not on his game necessarily. And it looked for a little while, like for the first 20 minutes or so, it looked like Kovacic was going to do something. But in the end, that midfield has three good players in it, but they're still trying to gel. You've got Jorginho who's dictating it. I mean, he knows what he's doing because he does one thing and that's what he does. But you've got Conte who's trying to learn a different position, really. And in the end, if you've got that player and you're playing him not in the position that he plays, might you actually be better playing someone else? Because if he's trying to be a link man rather than the man who plays in front of the defence, I'm not sure that he's better in that role than Ross Barkley, but he's quite difficult to drop because he's someone that everyone thinks is great and has earned his right to, I suppose, a go in that position. But didn't really see a lot of him on Saturday once the game got serious after half-time.
What do you think is going to happen in the game against Juventus? Because obviously these big games are rolling through from a point where, 2-0 down against Newcastle, it looks like it's curtains for Mourinho. A couple of victories in the next two games in particular would suddenly catapult us to a position where Mourinho's feeling pretty good about life. Are they going to get a win at home against Juventus tomorrow night?
Probably not. I don't think they need a win, really. Because they couldn't beat Valencia at home, they put themselves into a bit of trouble in the group now because Valencia got walloped at home by Juventus with 10 men. So it seems unlikely that they're going to win in Turin, but they might win in Bern. So if that were to happen, then United would need probably a point against Juventus and a point in Valencia to go through, or so it doesn't come down to goal difference. So I think United are capable of a point. They are capable of winning if they play really well, but it seems the way that United often have beaten teams, good teams in Europe in the past, is by coming out of the blocks and by getting a lead in the game. And that's often, I think, how British teams have done it. We saw Liverpool do it in 2005 when they got, obviously not in the final, but prior to then, when they played Juventus at home, they blitzed them in the first 20 minutes. Because that English style of play in a night game, when you have a good atmosphere in the ground and people gets people going, it's quite hard to adjust as an away team, particularly if you're not used to playing against those players and playing against that style of football. The problem with this United team is they don't really do that. But I think that is probably the best way of getting this job done. They are capable of winning. They are capable of getting a point. But the problem is that once the game settles into a pattern and Juventus get their passing going, it's difficult to see United's defence not conceding at least a couple of goals. And that in its way is also kind of a reflection of Mourinho, because some of the ways that they're contriving to concede goals is not about, well, they're not elite level defenders. It's about organisation and confidence. And what we saw against Chelsea got in behind United a lot of times, and that is as a consequence of not doing the basics right. And things that any player at that level should be able to do, like stepping up in a line, understanding when to stay, when to go, clearing the ball properly, defending set pieces properly. And these are all things that this United defence don't do well. And it's not because they're not elite level defenders. I don't know why it is, really. It's because they're not being drilled properly. It's because they're not executing properly. They're not playing with confidence. Maybe it's a bit of all of those things. So feels a bit like United will have to score twice to get a draw, because it's just hard to see a team with as much attacking quality as Juventus not doing something about that. And if they are going to get a draw, they're probably going to have to score early and first, which they're capable of because they are playing with confidence now. And I don't think that conceding that late equaliser against Chelsea will actually hurt them that much, because in the scheme of the season, it was a big game for United to perform in, and it would have been a big win if they could have got it. But actually, if they don't they're not going to win the league, so they don't need the 3 points. If they don't get in the top 4, it's not going to be because they conceded a late equaliser against Chelsea like that. It'll be because they played like clowns subsequent to that. So I think that they will have some confidence, and they might have the ability to go out and play, but they're not really a first 20 minutes team, and that is something that they probably need to become.
Daniel, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
See you again. Bye.
Daniel Harris there giving us his thoughts ahead of the game against Juve and responding to the 2-2 draw at the weekend for Manchester United against Chelsea. We'll analyse all the rest of the Champions League games for you tomorrow here on OTB AM. In the meantime, Owen's been looking at the GAA for the weekend and is ready to round the whole thing up.
Yeah, tons of GAA over the course of the weekend. Loads of county finals. One semi-final, I think, is all we're going to mention today for obvious reasons. But we'll start with the county finals. We'll start with the football. We'll start with Mayo on Saturday night. Ballintubber beating Brafey on a 12 points to 1-8 scoreline. A last gasp Diarmuid O'Connor winner to seal things for Ballintubber at the weekend. At Radio Midwest on Twitter tweeted the winning score from Diarmuid. Have a look at this. Look at that. Right bad. Dissecting the posts under pressure. Killian was man of the match. And it was Brafey's third defeat in the final in 6 seasons. They've not won a senior title yet. Ballintubber, their manager Kevin Johnson's only 36 years old, and 3 matches in 14 days for Ballintubber, one of them going to extra time over the last 2 weeks. So they managed to hold on in there and hold out for a 1-point win against Brafey. It was also the women's final in Mayo, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Carnacon beating Knockmore on a scoreline of 9 goals and 10 points to 4 points after a fairly turbulent summer.
They ran the score up. There was no this game's over.
Yeah, it's fair to say that that's the case. This photo on Info features Millie the dog. I'm not sure we bring that up now. There we go. Millie the dog appears in a lot of photos on Info. I'm not sure is Millie, is it a he or she? But either way, he or she is a big mascot for Carnacon. But they go through after a dominant performance at the weekend. In Donegal, Guidor beat Naomh Conaill on a 17 points to 1-7 scoreline. Our man Enda Call was down there. He spoke to Kevin Cassidy after the game. We can hear from Kevin Cassidy now.
That's not a weird torture, is it?
No, that is Owen Wade coming to the rescue of Michael Carroll during the game. That's good sportsmanship right there, I think, Ger, is the caption. Let's have a listen to what Cassidy was saying.
Kevin Cassidy, first club championship in 12 years for Guidor. How's that feel?
Euphoric, to be honest with you. Stand here
12 years ago, we had a fantastic squad, fantastic team. We probably thought we were going to be back every year. It doesn't work out like that. I've chased this moment for the last 12 years, as of Eamon and Neil and Dan McBride and James Gallagher. That's all we've thought about for 12 years. We're trying to get back here. Some of it was our own doing. We didn't pull together, we didn't train as hard, we didn't come in as hard. But the last 2 years we did, and we're standing here today reaping the rewards. And you actually left the panel a couple of years ago. How happy are you now that you changed your mind and come back? Listen, it's amazing. To be honest with you, even if I stayed away and I was still on the other side of the fence, I'd be euphoric seeing the club getting over the line. But it's just great that these young guys have taken that step. Once you take that step, once you get the first one under your belt, we let it slip. To be honest with you, we maybe took our eye off the ball when we won those couple of championships. We'll be driving that home to these lads now to keep going, because the years pass quickly.
A load of finals in Ulster yesterday. I think, can you call it a drought for Crossmaglen? They hadn't won a county title since 2015. I think from Crossmaglen's perspective it is. They beat Ballymacnab on a 24 points to 115 scoreline. Aaron Kernan kicking 3 points from wing back in that win at the weekend. Tyrone then also had their final, Coal Island beating Killyclogher on a 211 to 17 scoreline. It's their first title since 2010. They beat the same opposition there. They were beaten by Killyclogher in 2016 by 16 points. So 2 years later they turn it around. Padraig Hampsey's Coal Island, of course, and another Hampsey involved there as well for Coal Island yesterday. So they progress to the Ulster Series, as do Castlerahan, beating Crossrolock in the Cavan final. They'd lost the last 3 deciders, Castlerahan, but they'd come back from 6 points down yesterday to win that at Kingspan Breffni Park. Paul Fitzpatrick in the Examiner has this line actually, that Crossrolock have an average age of just over 21.
They lost the last 3 finals in a row.
Castlerahan did, yeah. But an average age of 21.5 for a club team is remarkably low. So you'd imagine that they'll be back after their defeat yesterday to claim a Cavan title or get to many a county final over the next couple of years. Just pivoting quickly to Leinster and your Athaija, a bad day for them in the Kildare decider yesterday. They lost to Moorfield on a 212 to 29 scoreline. That's Darryl Flynn there celebrating with his daughter Lorraine O'Sullivan of Info with that pick. And Antrim then, a classic I think is what you call this. Carrigan 5 points, Craigan 4 points was the final score. Have a look at the closing moments here. This is thanks to MQ Video. You can follow them on Twitter at MQ_video. They capture the closing scenes. That was the winning point we just witnessed there. I would give them a free pass for that low scoring game because they were both wearing the same jerseys. It would be impossible to make out your opponent in that. Thanks again to at MQ_video. You can follow them on Twitter to catch that video. In Derry then, bit higher scoring. Coleraine beat Lavey on while we were watching the rest of this. Sorry, let them have the moment before I rush on to Derry. Derry, 112 to 12 points was the final score for Coleraine as they beat Lavey in Celtic Park. It's only the second time in Colerane's history that they've actually won that title. In Westmeath then, a good night for Mullingar. They beat St. Lomans on a 212 to 111 scoreline. Lomans, of course, were going for 4 in a row yesterday. Mullingar Shamrocks putting an end to that. And their cornerback Sean Lancaster was red carded after just 60 minutes, so they had to do it in a doubly tough manner. In Wexford then, Killenarin lost to Shelmaliers on a 414 to 17 scoreline. That's Matty Ford's Killenarin, of course. That was a replay in Innovate Wexford Park, and that's Shelmaliers' first title, so pretty comprehensive for them yesterday. In Limerick then, Adair beat Ballylanders 113 to 12 points in Newcastle West. Adair were intermediate champions in 2016. They've since won senior straight away in their first year in senior, and then they've backed it up again with a second consecutive senior football title, so that's some achievement by them. In London then, it was a draw in McGovern Park between Fulham Irish and Tyrconnell Gales, 114 apiece. And in Louth, Newton Blues beat Nave Martin 111 to 110. We were also into the provincial stage in Ulster. We had Scottstown of Monaghan beating Derry Gonley of Fermanagh 217 to 111. It was the midfield behemoth battle is what I wanted to call this yesterday. Darren Hughes versus Ryan Jones in midfield. As you can imagine, Darren Hughes coming out on top. His side came out on top, although there was 2 late goals in the last 6 minutes really for Scottstown yesterday, which put a bit of a gloss on that scoreline. So Derry Gonley crashing out of Ulster. The last football game I want to talk about was a county semi-final, which happened down in Kerry. Dingle hammering East Kerry 413 to 12 points. We should be talking about Paul Geaney's hat-trick, an absolutely sublime display from him yesterday, but instead we're talking about this. Here's a reminder of the videos we played at the top of the show if you didn't catch them. So this is my absolutely appalling cinematography, but you can probably make out what it is. An all-in brawl on the sideline in Austin Stack Park yesterday. After a bit of needle in the preceding few minutes that led to this spilling out over into the sideline, we'll get a closer shot of this in just a moment. It's the first time I've actually gone to the stand instead of the terrace in Tralee for a long time. I've been over the terrace, I would have got a much better shot. But anyway, here is the view from the terrace.
Is there sound on this?
We're gonna play this a second time in just a moment.
You want to hear the crowd going, ooh, about 10 seconds in.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So you want to, once you play this a second time, what you want to do is you want to keep your eye on the left-hand side of the screen, because in my view, this is the potential to be the worst.
Well, let's wait and see now.
Yeah, we have to wait and see. Yeah.
There's
so here we go.
Keep your eye on the left-hand side of the screen. There's a player in blue screaming at it, kind of examining a ruck.
There, you can see him go down there after what the selector, manager from the Dingle team, ran at him, ran out of shot.
And we don't see what happens.
We don't see what happens.
He's on the ground. The crowd goes, ooh.
The ground.
So there you go. Nothing to see. Usual handbags. That's the narrative underneath the tweet from that.
We might come back to that a little bit later on. We're under pressure. In hurling, Ballyboden St Enda's and Kilmacud Crokes ended in a draw. Ballyabe beat Cratloe and Clare. In Tip, Clonalty Rossmore won. And that's pretty much it. We might bring you a few more of those scores a little bit later on.
We've got some Anthony Daly for you actually here. So speaking after that Dublin County final draw, have a look.
Anthony Daly, Kilmacud Crokes manager. Have ye won the draw, lost the draw, or drawn the draw?
I'll say drawing the draw is the fairest way to put it. Yeah, look, bit of everything in there. We had it won, we had it lost, we had it won again, and I thought we had lost. Paul Ryan got his hand on that last ball, and you know we somehow got it off the line. So we're lucky in some ways, and other ways when we went 2 ahead, I thought we were going to close the deal, but you know again we didn't, and very little you can do now. We're after getting confirmation next Sunday now, so. Yeah, look, it won't be how much training you'll do or anything like that. It'll be about getting heads right. But I was a bit worried that the heads were slightly not where they were coming into the Coola game today, and that was teed up, I suppose, by the bit of extra media hype on us because you beat Coola, and that's natural. Like you know, I don't blame anybody for that. But I think we're very well grounded after that now, and anyone that was a bit carried away will certainly be. You know, a lot of lads who had great semi-finals didn't have great games today, so you know the challenge is there for them now to get back up to that standard, you know. But yeah, look, whole pile of everything, but great for Dublin hurling, I think. You know, it's a great battle, and yeah, we look forward to it. We look forward to going again.
Yeah, it is really good for Dublin hurling that you've got a bunch of teams who are fairly similar standard to each other and who are looking at what Coola have achieved over the last couple of years and trying to use that as a springboard for themselves. One tweet from Isle Cody to bring you. Katie Taylor needed to try to get the opponent to engage. People complain about the lack of knockouts in her fights, but how can you fight somebody who won't engage? Also, she has had to do that in 2 fights that I recall, says Isle, so thanks for that. I was asking, it feels like she'd done that before where she kind of had gestured people on. Darren is here. Good morning to you, Darren. How are you?
Morning, Ger. How are you?
What's the crack?
Not too bad at all. Starting with Leinster's unbeaten Champions Cup run. It came to a dramatic end. The reigning champions went down 28-27 to Toulouse last night. The game turned on a length of the field interception, trying the dying moments. The French side had raced into a 14-point lead. Leinster clawed it back. Head coach Leo Cullen, though, hopes the loss will serve as a wake-up call to those in the province.
Fighting back from 14-0 down is always good. You know, where we got ourselves back in a situation where we were in what looked like control of the game. Ultimately, it wasn't so. But you know, we fought our way back into the game well. Like, it's a tough place to come here. And Toulouse are a very good team. They're on the rise. But yeah, no, there's still a hell of a lot of rugby to be played in this pool. For us now, there's obviously going to be a bit of a break. Toulouse are sitting pretty on top, and you know, suddenly we're the team that has to chase somebody else now, which is good.
Meanwhile, Gareth Anscombe says the clash between Cardiff Blues and Glasgow Warriors in the Heineken Champions Cup was overshadowed by an unfortunate clash of kits. Anscombe said that the tournament organisers EPCR should be held accountable for the error, which he labelled a disgrace. The Blues and Glasgow both lined up in these blue kits, which is quite hard to tell apart even in the still images. Cardiff lost 29-12, and Anscombe says it was a disgrace, really. I don't know whose the job it is to decide that, but he has got to face consequences for it. It was an out-and-out disgrace. Very, very difficult to see the difference
Why didn't they change at half time, though?
I don't know.
Come on, there's like, Anscombe's all grand blaming somebody else, but like, you have the kits with you, change them.
I presume these things are approved in advance.
And so we made a mistake, we're going to change. You change or we change, one of us is going to change. But no, we lost this game because some official over there, now come on.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it?
There's a little bit of personal responsibility to be had in any of this, no?
Yeah, no, I see the point. It's just, but I suppose then is that not called that the referee dictates? I'm pretty sure kits and clashes is dictated by the referee. So if he tells you to change, I'm not sure you can go to him and say, can we change kits?
I mean, you can, though, and the ref goes, yeah, fair enough. You know?
I'm not sure how it works in rugby, but I know in soccer it's the referee that will see all the kits beforehand. You have to bring it to his room before the match. And
but hang on, if Alex Ferguson goes in and goes, we're getting the shit kicked out of us here, we're changing kits, and the referee goes, okay, that's no problem.
I'm not sure Gareth Anscombe is as imposing as Alex Ferguson.
Definitely isn't.
Didn't Ireland play Fiji last year in a Fiji kit, basically? Or Fiji played Ireland in an Ireland kit, whatever way you want to look at it.
Oh, that weird Ireland kind of steel-coloured jersey. Yeah,
it's happened before, and it'll happen again. Hate to be the harbinger of absolute doom.
Yeah, an ominous warning from Owen. Meanwhile, Everton left it late to register a 2-0 win over Crystal Palace in the Premier League. Dominic Calvert-Lewin put them in front in the 87th minute, then the second goal came moments later. While Usain Bolt's agent Ricky Sims said the Olympic sprint champion has been offered a professional football contract by Australian team Central Coast Mariners. Bolt has spent the last 2 months on trial with the club, the Jamaican weighing up the Mariners' offer even though it falls well short of his reported demands. He apparently asked for around $3 million Australian dollars. The Mariners offer in the vicinity of 150 grand. He's weighing up the offer though. He's also had an offer as well turned down from I think it was Malta. A Maltese club made him an offer last week, but he said no, he was having none of it.
I mean, like if you were 150 grand, if they're going to get him for 150 grand, offer him 200 grand to come to Cork, no? Or Rovers.
Yeah. The fact is, will he draw?
Yeah.
Draw a crowd?
Yeah. I think for at least a while.
And like it would send a really good message as well to all the young kids out there. It's like, if you want to make it in the League of Ireland, all you got to do is be the fastest man in the world.
Become a sprint champion. Gaelic Games, meanwhile, Dublin's former Camogie manager David Herity has been appointed the new coach of the Kildare Hurlers, much to the delight of Ger Gilroy, passionate Kildare hurling fan. Last year, the former Kilkenny shot stopper guided the girls in blue Dublin to a first All-Ireland semi-final appearance since 1990. They exited the All-Ireland Championship at the quarter-final stage this year. They lost to Galway. He's replaced Joe Quaid, who spent 3 years in charge of the Lillywhites. During that time, they won the Christie Ring Cup. He departed to take charge of the Westmeath Hurlers a couple of weeks ago. Well, the All-Ireland champions Carnacon claimed their 19th Mayo Senior Ladies title in a row. As Owen touched on in his GAA roundup, they had 33 points to spare in the end, comfortably defeating Knockmore. Captain Michelle McGing accepted the cup. Here's a flavour of her speech courtesy of the Mayo News.
This has been a long, hard road. But you know what? This is sweet. This has been some 24 hours for the parish of Burrscarra, where the men took home the senior county championship last night, and now we're bringing home the senior county championship.
Yeah, that's our roundup. More of all the day's sports news on the website offtheball.com.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for that. Johnny Walters made his commentary debut for Off the Ball yesterday. Afterwards, Nathan got him talking about the last year in Irish football.
I've played under, many different players that have been captains, and everyone's different. But Seamus will lead by example. He'll say what needs to be said. He'll demand the standards are met, and he'll demand exacting standards. As I said before the game here, he wants to win things. He doesn't want to just be at Everton to be at a good club and make up the numbers and push to the top six and be an almost team. He wants to win things, so he wants to go on a good cup run. And he wants to push up that league with Everton and make them become a force that they want to be. And as you said, with the investment in the team, that's where Everton wants ahead. They've got a new stadium on the back burner ready to go, I think, in the docks. They spent a hell of a lot of money on players here. Counting through the team, there's 300 million plus. And Seamus to be made captain, it's a big statement for Marco Silva, a player that's been at the club for a number of years and knows what it takes to be an Everton player and hopefully push on and push Everton up the league.
He was a big loss, obviously, over the 2 games over the last week for the Republic of Ireland. It'll be brilliant to have him back, potentially your Burnley teammate Robbie Brady back fit as well for that game. Who knows, maybe James McCarthy will return over the next few weeks. There are players to return to the side, but from what you saw over the last week from this Irish team, and you were at the game against Denmark, you were watching the match against Wales, I'm sure, we all know you would have loved to have been out there. What was your general sense of what happened over the last week?
Look, before the game I said we wanted 6 points. You probably would have took 4 to get 1. Everyone's disappointed, but just as you alluded to, you've got Seamus coming back. You got Robbie Brady, who's pretty much back. I think I'd hope he'll be involved next week with the first team. James McCarthy looks like he's playing 23 games here, so he's not far away. And there's 3 top quality players. So it'll be good to have them back in, and when they're back in, hopefully they'll make the difference and get the right results that we need.
This time last year we were all absolutely buzzing after the win over in Wales and looking forward to a World Cup playoff against Denmark. Since then there's only been the 1 win, which was a friendly against the USA. Is it possible to put your finger on what's gone wrong?
It's when the big moments have come, players need to step up and make the mark, and we haven't in the games. I was at the Denmark game. We started slow. We grew into the game a bit more. There's a lot of new players in the squad as well, and sometimes that takes time to gel. But with having Seamus back in there, the captain, as you said, with having Robbie back with his skill and his delivery, that he can produce is a massive bonus. And the likes of James McCarthy, if you can get him involved, they're the players you want to be playing in the team. No disrespect to the other players, because everyone comes in and deserves to be there on the way they're playing. But 3 Premier League players in, if you can have them back in, hopefully that'll, as I said, make the difference.
It's Johnny Walters, part of our commentary team yesterday for Everton's victory against Crystal Palace, and obviously that whole match is now gone a bit viral since Seamus Coleman spoke with Nathan in the aftermath and had a lash at Keith Andrews. You can get that on all our social channels, offtheball.com for more details as well. Now, Alan Quinlan is here to talk about the weekend's rugby and in the Champions Cup. Defeat for Leinster, an important win for Munster, not quite the killer instinct in the last 20 minutes that maybe they would have wanted. We'll get to Leinster in a minute, but let's talk Munster first.
By the way, before you go on, I feel a little bit like Keith Andrews.
Oh yeah?
Well, I did a few years ago when I gave out about Munster, so it's tricky on him there when he's talking about the soccer and stuff, and former teammates are saying, hey, well, what do you know about it? You've been in the mix here as well, and you weren't so great, and so I feel a little bit like...
Who said it to you?
I just felt it. I don't know if it was publicly said, but anyway.
Did you get deleted from some WhatsApp groups?
A bit of distance. I'm not sure we were in WhatsApp groups. We probably weren't in too many groups then, but a little bit of distance, all right, But anyway, I can feel he's...
Does the distance ever heal, or is it now?
It does, yeah, it does. I think Seamus Coleman there is, he's kind of stuck in the middle of that at the moment, and he's defending his manager and the group they're in, and they're trying to stick together and stuff, but in the cold light of day, there's sometimes you have to say things, and I think what Keith Andrews was saying was he was giving his strong opinion of the results and the way the matches are going, and I just saw some parallels there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and it's not easy. It's
in the end, it's good for you though, right? It's good that your former teammates don't think you're just a patsy for them to boost them in the media, and that there is a distance between you.
Yeah, there's...
As a pundit...
When you're gone, you're gone. You know what I mean? Anyone will say it, and even guys who've retired in recent years, that's just the way it is. Are you letting your former teammates down by speaking your opinion? You know what I mean? You're saying what 2 guys would say in a pub if there's a crap match, and they have a chat, they say, well, Ireland were crap, or Munster were crap, or this is wrong, that's wrong. So speaking in the media, you're just kind of giving it to a more open forum, really, and then you're judged on being a former player. That is it right or wrong that you say this? And I think he's earned the right to say what he's saying, Keith Andrews.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He should be respected for that. And absolutely, Seamus Coleman has the right to challenge him on it. But I just think it's interesting that I was in that situation a few years ago when I got emotional and I got frustrated and I got kind of angry at some performances and maybe some stuff that was going on behind the scenes.
You were on Sky Sports, is that right?
Yeah.
And did you say it was the lowest ebb? What was the phrase you used?
I can't remember. I'm trying to blank it out of my mind. I said the club needed to be dissected and this whole thing needed to be assessed because it was 2 years in the trot that they weren't going to make the knockout stages of Europe. I hadn't any divine right to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. That emotion got the better of me, and it was a build-up of a bit of a frustrating run, and obviously it made headlines and people started assessing my opinion then rather than assessing the situation of does it need to be dissected? Do changes need to be made?
Did any of your teammates get in touch and say well done?
A few, yeah, but they probably don't want me to say it.
No,
a few of the ex-teammates did, yeah, and said, look, you know, because they probably knew that, look, I was going to get some flack for it. Some of the current ones that were involved at the time and that I played with weren't as happy with me.
No, of course.
Some of them, like one in particular, said, well, my opinion is I thought you were doing it to enhance yourself and to...
Which is exactly what Seamus Coleman has said here, right?
And it's absolute bullshit. It really annoyed me because I never in my life wanted to be in that situation. I wanted Munster to win every match. You play 15 years with the club. For me, why would I want them to lose or want this situation to enhance myself in the media? Somewhere I never really planned to go anyway. Somewhere I totally realised could end in a flash. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't as if I was trying to carve out this career for myself and here's my opportunity to be controversial. I said what I felt because I passionately felt that changes were needed and it wasn't good enough. And I also said at the time that I just think it's wrong what Seamus Coleman is saying there to Keith Andrews. Well, you've been on the team and you're talking about passing the ball. You weren't so great at passing the ball yourself. That's just petulant. It's silly. I played for Munster. I made many mistakes. I missed tackles. I gave away penalties. I did stupid things. You know what I mean? So you shouldn't, I just think assessing, it doesn't mean that I was perfect, but I'm giving my opinion at that given time that the week before Munster beat Ulster, but before that they were on a run of 5 losses, and if they'd lost in Ulster, it would have been 6 in a trot. I don't know why we've rehashed this thing anyway, but you seem to think it's interesting. It probably is. And, you know, that's just the way it is. Former players talking about their teammates. I took absolutely no pleasure out of that, Ger. I took no pleasure. There was no planned moment in my head to say, I'm going to go and have a right cut. Here's my opportunity. It was probably a little bit emotional, but I thought I was quite composed and stuff. And look, I understand if I was a player in the dressing room and I'm hearing an ex-player having a pop, you know, it would upset you a bit. But
yeah, but you've got to respond to it. You have to respond to it, and he's not doing it. Like, you've got to understand.
Well, it was never meant personally. Yeah. So sometimes people criticise people, and you think it's a personal attack. None of my stuff was meant to be personal. I just thought, as a group, Munster were not performing where they should be.
Sometimes you got to take it personally to really create that siege mentality that's required to.
Well, you're in the bubble as a player, and when I played, I heard players saying stuff on the outside, ex-players, and I was like, F him, and I'm peed off with him or whatever, you know, and you kind of, but look, it's just the way it is, you know. I never wanted it, but I just found it interesting that now the focus is on Keith Andrews. Do you know what I mean? I know maybe the journalist asked Seamus Coleman that question, but
it was Nathan.
Or Nathan.
It was Nathan.
Nathan, yeah, because I only looked at the papers. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, typical.
So I just saw it in the papers.
Stealing our content again.
Yeah, robbing the stuff, and
I hope you gave us a mention on the News Talk Breakfast Show, did you?
It's all.
Jesus,
we covered all the rugby this morning. We covered too much rugby this morning, but yeah, it was. It's interesting now that the focus is all on.
Yeah, well, let's move on because I want to talk Munster first. We'll come back to Leinster. Munster's performance is difficult to assess because they did have a man advantage for the majority of the game, and they were clearly going to win, and yet also at the end they almost allowed Gloucester to get back into it, to get 2 losing bonus points, a 4-try and so all in all, a win is a win. You get your 5 points and everybody goes away happy and you forget about it, or are you like, come on, we need a killer instinct here?
I think given it's been a tricky run from given they're away to Leinster, they're away to Exeter, and that has its toll. There's no doubt about it. Physically, emotionally. And I think there was a bit of a hangover there, and they were kind of a bit heavy in their feet the other day coming out. The 1 o'clock kickoff doesn't suit everyone to play at that time. Yeah. The atmosphere was a little bit subdued. There's an expectation. I was part of that. bonus point win. Munster will win handy. I was doing my assessment on Friday, looking at the Gloucester team. I'm seeing a lot of guys who moved from a lot of different clubs in the UK. English guys who are not internationals, and you're thinking, are they kind of journeyman guys? How good are these guys? You know, will they be able, for the intensity over 80 minutes that Munster can produce in Thomond Park? And I thought, yeah, I bought into it as well. The crowd did. Everybody, the talk before the game, Munster win by 10, 15, 20 points. I think Gloucester, what you do when you go to Thomond Park, if I was an opposition player, is number one, and I've played there a lot, but I've also worked there a lot in recent years in all the matches, and I've seen all the different variables and different teams, the way they approach it is, you want to start well, set out your stall early, quieten the crowd, physically get into Munster's face and say, right, bring it on, we're here for a game today, we're not running out the gate. And I think Gloucester tried to do that. They crossed the line a little bit with the discipline on occasions, but they were actually a good side. I was very impressed with them. When the Cipriani is sent off, what are you thinking as a player then? You're going, Jesus, we're goose now, and that, sometimes that kind of mentality can nearly help you, because you're kind of going, well, sure, we got to try things now, we got to throw the ball around, let's not try and contain, and that's what they did. Munster had the ability then to kind of get those scores in the second half, and that one-man advantage helped them, but they were very patchy. There was a lot of mistakes. And the one thing I heard Ronan O'Gara saying a lot in his analysis on Virgin Media was, at half-time and full-time, was they never built sustained pressure. And that's one thing that, you know, you're nearly guaranteed every time in Thomond Park. So
it wasn't a pattern of play.
No, and you go, the amount of times they held onto the ball the week before. So it's not as if they're not capable of building phases. There were 20, 25 phases over in Exeter on a couple of occasions. So they control the ball really well, but they just seem to kick it away, losing the tackle, turn it over, knock it on. The game was nearly 2 hours there. It was stop, start, someone down injured. You know, there was a lot of stuff going on, TMOs. And Jesus. It just took away that bit of, and to be fair to Gloucester, like they had a right cut, but what do you do when your back is to the wall? But they lacked that little bit of ruthless edge, Munster. And
let's talk quickly about the red card. There's a consensus building that the right thing is that it's a red card, because it's going to make players change their tackles, and it's going to make the game safer, and it's going to make the game sustainable. At the same time, I have a bit of sympathy for Cipriani, because you see.
I have a lot of sympathy for him. I have a lot of sympathy. He's backing out of the tackle, and he's trying to get out of there, to be honest. He doesn't want to make that tackle. And Ruskin, the loose head prop, is inside him. He's about to go for the big hit. And even the still shot on the papers is, you know, Rory Scannell is kind of heading down. He's about to put the head down like that. And look, if he swallows up the tackle and Rory Scannell hits him in the chest,
nobody even thinks about it.
Would you believe I never got pulled for high tackles? And I wasn't a good tackler, but I tackled a lot with my arms and chest, so I wrapped guys, and a lot of the time I got the impact in my chest. But I never, if you're going in with the shoulder, you just got to be really careful, and I just don't think there's an intent there. I understand Johan Ackermann's frustration after the game when he says, well, intent shouldn't mean red, and there's a lot of these that are kind of accidental clashes, but it's kind of short-term pain for long-term gain, I think. And if you go back 2 years ago when Ireland played the All Blacks in November, you remember Sam Kane's one, Robbie Henshaw spins around and he gets shoulder straight into the head.
Yeah.
It's not even a penalty then. Feketau's tackle on Zebo. They're 2 red cards now, so it's moved on. Now you have a lot of people giving out. Billy Vunipola tweeted the other day during the game, I looked at it afterwards, another game ruined by a stupid decision or something like that.
He actually got into a bit of a spat with Ross Tucker, I think, on Twitter.
Slightly overmatched in terms of intellectual.
But we see some of the players now are doing it. Is the game gone soft? Jesus, I don't think it's gone soft. I think there's a breakdown in this interpretation. And, you know, you go back to the Leicester one a few weeks ago when Jordan Murphy kind of made that comment about going soft when his player was sent off against Wasps. Or was he cited afterwards, or was he sent off?
Sent off.
Yeah, he was sent off, yeah. Shoulder to face, sometimes there's going to be accidental clashes. Now, there was talks and there's a bit of stuff online about CJ Stander's side on 12 trees early on. But it's shoulder on shoulder. He doesn't hit him in the face. You know, Stephen Archer's one at the end, is he definite yellow? you could argue that 12-3s could have been a red if Cipriani's and Joey Carberry. Like, there's a lot of force coming across there. Now, I know he ends up kind of grabbed like that.
Yeah, or
we're seeing a lot of it, and I say this a lot. Joe Schmidt, these are the little minute details, this attention to detail. So his players now for November, that's stuff that he'll be very conscious of going into, speaking to the referees who's refereeing the
one last point on this, though, that this isn't necessarily, those sendings off aren't really about the Champions Cup and international rugby. They're about the under 12, under 14, under 16 game and the youth game, where there is no recourse to the video referee, where you start seeing these tackles and they start getting red cards, and those age groups habits change, and the game is safe and will continue to be played.
Yeah, it's hard in a contact sport to keep them all low. There's no doubt about it, but the technique and the practice has to be to try and hear. And if you're wrapping the ball going high, I've never seen a high tackle with someone wrapping a guy.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen an arm slip up and a penalty and maybe be careful.
Yeah,
but
that's fair enough.
It's the impact of shoulder contact and face. And it's very difficult for players as well, Ger, because some of the pick and goes around the side of ruck. You remember the one Remy Grosso's one against the All Blacks? He got the shoulder into the face and fractured his jaw. It's those kind of forceful added impacts from the second player. Sometimes we scrag a player and it's the second guy, which the defensive coaches are saying, if a guy is coming at me and he steps and I'm scragging him, then I want Owen to step in and finish the tackle and tag the ball.
Yeah.
That's fine. But this guy now has to be much more careful about the force he's putting in.
The spectacle improves as well. Like Neil Francis made a very good point yesterday in the paper, saying that ultimately if you're tackling lower, your hands are freer, it leads to more offloads. Like, it's a win-win in terms of welfare, in terms of the spectacle.
Yeah, it is. And James Lowe had one on Colby yesterday with the ball that went up in the air, and he gets behind Colby and kind of, he's trying to grab the ball, but he ends up putting his hands around his neck. Like, that's not a red card. That's not a yellow card. It's just a penalty.
There's common sense there.
They're the accidental ones that there's no force in. And the big thing for me is force. If the force isn't there, like there's no force in Archer's arm. It's a grapple and he grabs him. It's a yellow card. It's not a red.
Yeah. Let's just talk briefly about Carberry, because there was that beautiful no-look behind him. I'm delighted that it ended up in a try in the far corner, because it will be part of the highlight reels forever, but he's getting to a point now where, like, for his age, you're starting to think, the sky's the limit for this guy.
Yeah, well, he's playing a number of games now, so the focus has kind of gone off. Is he a 10 and is that his best position? He's now seems to be happy, enjoying himself. And you know what? He's been through a bit of, like, patchy period with Munster where it's been tough, you know, that loss away in Cardiff, the loss to Leinster over in Exeter, that's hard stuff. He's in physical collisions, and his defence, I thought the other day, was brilliant. He's cover tackling as well.
It was amazing, yeah.
And it wasn't easy because his pack were very disjointed at times, and he wasn't getting it on the ball wasn't really quick coming out of the breakdown. Gloucester were targeting him, like they were running around the side of rucks and trying to get their time, and just to hit him, get in his face. And that's what Gloucester did very well the other day, and I think Munster need to figure this out. Is teams are trying to squeeze him back in, so they're closing the outside channels and pushing him back in. You know, Sweetenham got very little ball, and I think he's a brilliant balanced open field runner. If he gets a little bit of space, he has that bit of a goose step on him.
Yeah.
Conroy didn't really get enough of ball. Haley's getting in heavy traffic as well. So you have a back three there with a fair bit of pace, and they're not getting options to kind of go one-on-one with guys, and that's because it's breaking down in field a little bit. So slowing them down and then closing that kind of channel from 13 in, if you like. So look, this period that they're going through will actually make them stronger. You think if you put Conor Murray back in that team, Chris Farrell, Jaco Taute, Keith Earls, there's a fair few options there then, you know what I mean? So they're a bit stretched there, and to be fair, the guys that are there they're doing a good job, but they need to be better and more clinical.
And just a word about Tommy O'Donnell, obviously. It was
heartbreaking, you know. It's Tommy's from my hometown club, Clanwilliam, and so I've obviously extra interest in him, and a Tipperary man as well, and I just think he's some sort of a curse maybe that I had at times, you know, because it makes no sense when you're going well, you get back in action, and it's not. I often try to assess my injuries and say, is it something I'm doing? you're only beating yourself up. There's nothing Tommy's doing.
Has he done that before, that particular injury? I don't recall.
I don't think so, no. His ankle gets twisted underneath and the weight comes down, it gets trapped. You know, some guys never get injured. It's heartbreaking. You think of what happened to him a few years ago when he was in the mix for the World Cup in 15 where he dislocated his hip, an injury you very, very rarely see in rugby. He's had shoulder operations on both shoulders. And to be fair, he looked in brilliant shape coming back. He's a brilliant attitude. He's a great kid, I think, and he's not a kid anymore. He's 29, but he's a great attitude, and he's going to have to dust himself down again now and go back. Has it been confirmed that the ankle is broke? Or
it's the suspicion. It's definitely been mentioned a lot in the papers, but no confirmation.
I was just hoping it was probably the ligaments and that he might. Look, when he sat up, I said, this doesn't look as bad, but it's tough for him because you know, he made such an impact last week, and just injuries are killers.
Yeah, and there's suddenly not that stacked in the back row. I was just checking Jack O'Donoghue's injury situation. It was May when he did ligament damage.
I spoke to him. He's back running. I spoke to him on Saturday. He's back running and he's back doing a little bit, but he's still a bit away.
Early in the new year.
Christmas, January. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's all right. Well, that's good because I kind of was hoping that wasn't going to be a year. That's like there'd be a chance for him to get back in. Obviously, if Clute's not injured, he wasn't in the squad for whatever reason at the weekend. So they could do with a bit more back row cover.
Yeah, David Callan's going around in crutches, and
what's Conor Oliver's story?
Conor Oliver, he's due back pretty soon as well. So
like he was a shining light last year. He was kind of like the Sammy Ireland mould who kind of broke out last year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he's so they are a bit stretched there, and it's like any squad. I went through the Gloucester team the other day, and I started picking out guys who were injured and people that have to come back as well. But nearly every team you go, there's 6-7 guys out of all the teams. So is the game gone soft, Ger? I think if you look at the injury profiles for any squad, it's not gone soft. I think it's gone through a bit of a transitional period around this head-high stuff.
Let's talk about Leinster, obviously beaten in Toulouse by Toulouse performance for the ages, really, exactly like you kind of remembered Toulouse from the late 90s, the whole way through their glory era. It was like, this isn't the same Toulouse team anymore. Who are these guys anyway? And it's like, well, actually they're very hot, very good. Amazing pace, brilliant offloading game, forwards who are savage. Exactly what you want from Toulouse.
I was surprised because I did the game the week before against Bath, in Bath, and to be fair, they showed glimpses of their danger and their ambition, and I had a good chat with Mike Prendergast a few weeks ago, just trying to see what they were like and what's he seen, what's the talk in France. And he said, look, to be fair to them, they're having a real go throwing the ball around, and if a couple of passes stick for them, they can really hurt teams, and they've done that in patches in games. I saw a little bit of that in Bath, so I was able to agree with him. He thought when Intimac plays from in centre, he's a sensation, to be fair, and I just thought for the first 15-20 minutes before he went off yesterday, the ability, and it sounds simple, to catch the ball and straighten and fix the player on the run, and he did that at one stage, and it's little things like that I try and pick out in a player. I think he's a brilliant footballer. Him going off, I thought that's Toulouse's chance gone, because they started brilliantly, 14-3. I thought when he went off, Hugier has to go into the centre. Guitoun is a winger as well, so they've two wingers in the centre. They're down to their last loose head prop, but I just thought they were fantastic. Elstad, the number 6 yesterday, was phenomenal, and that's the kind of stuff I would watch. The tackles he made around the side of the rucks, the impact stopping James Ryan, Toner, Tyg Furlong, Healy, these guys who are normally very dominant over the gain line. Tolafua, he was sensational at number 8.
Yeah.
He just his footwork at times, his carries.
For one of the tries, is it their last try, their second last try, where he kind of steps towards Sean O'Brien. O'Brien leans in to make the tackle, and he just steps back and O'Brien just falls over. It's like, I've never seen that.
It's incredible little footwork to be able to kind of feign going forward and then swerve a little bit.
And Larmour getting sent the wrong way as well for the second last Toulouse.
Well, Guitoun, a great step from him. He has that bit of a goose step. But Charlie Faumuina, who sometimes you question fitness and stuff, he's 50 caps for the All Blacks. I thought he was incredible for 50 minutes, however long he was on. The amount of tackles he made, Joe Takori, so they were up for the game. Now, I don't think Leo Cullen and Leinster would be surprised by that. They put themselves in a very good position to win it, going 28-21. Okay, some stuff has gone on here, we've readjusted, We're going to get the bonus point win now, and then they get the intercept off a really good kind of platform to attack from. And it's a certainty that Madoul and Toulouse, the guy who intercepted, they've seen it in the tape, they've seen it in the video. His timing was perfection. Now, I know some people say, oh, he's a yard offside. He's not. Luke McGrath picks up the ball to take a step. Your man just times it perfectly.
It wasn't the first time they'd done it either?
No, and they do that a little bit. And look, they're very good at their attacking plays. And sometimes, no matter how much you've seen something, it's hard to stop it because it's all about the first pivotal point of contact where whoever carried it up. The execution there, Maida gets a try, and you think, Jesus, this is phenomenal. Toulouse didn't have a lot of the ball in the second half. They didn't have a lot of sustained pressure, and Leinster's have. I think Leinster, it wasn't a bad performance, but I think their game management could have been better. They had 16 turnovers. I spoke to you last week, a couple of weeks ago, when we were here. Maybe it was, I can't remember, was it Friday or Monday of after one of the games, and they had 64 rucks and they won 64 of them.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of accuracy with the ball and very small turnovers. You're always going to have a few turnovers. They had 16 turnovers yesterday, so that helped Toulouse at times. And, you know, Toulouse had 17 offloads. If you go to France, Ger, and it was the one thing I always remember was don't let the opposition offload. So when you tackle them, try and bring them to ground or tag the ball. How many times you see him making a bit of contact, spinning around, offloading? It just kept it alive, and it kept him going yesterday. So I think Leinster learned from it. It wasn't a bad performance, but they came up against a Toulouse side who surprised a lot of people, and they played really well.
The other thing as well, watching it yesterday, is out of the last couple of years of the Champions Cup, there isn't a whole pile of matches outside of Ireland where you're like, that is an unbelievable cauldron of energy and one of the great sporting theatres in the world that I want to be in. Yesterday, watching that, I wanted to be in Toulouse, sampling that atmosphere firsthand. Like, without using the cliche here, that was a good result for the tournament. It was great to see Toulouse back and that atmosphere down there booming in the stadium.
Yeah, well, it gave other teams a bit of hope when they play Leinster, and to look at some of the defence, the line spin, how they stayed organised, they kept numbers in defence, they didn't bite down at the breakdown. Because Leinster had a fair bit of ball at times, and they were looking for options inside and outside, and there was red jerseys in front of them. So I thought Toulouse, surprisingly, were very well organised in defence. And they still could have lost it. They won by a point at home. So we're gone to a situation now where it's a bad result for Leinster when they lose by a point in Toulouse, which back in the day, if you're that close away from home, like we lost 13-12 in 2003 in a semi-final against Toulouse. And to be fair, you know, we were expected to be blown away, and you get that close, sometimes you're happy with it. Leinster wouldn't be happy. That just goes to show the level, and they will learn a lot from that.
The Grubber kicks through as well. It seemed like whatever Toulouse understood about Leinster's defence, that they were Grubber kicking through and gathering, like 3 or 4 times. If it happens once, you think, okay, well, that's interesting, it's been a good kick and a good chase. But it was actually clearly, whatever way Leinster's defence were coming up, whoever Toulouse had on either side of wherever their ruck was, they were able to kick through and gather. And you're like, well, I haven't seen that before.
They found little options, and that comes from the analysis. Maybe there's a little bit of space in behind there, and obviously they exploited that a few times. And you think they lost the ball in contact a fair bit in the second half, Toulouse, when they looked quite dangerous.
Yeah.
So they kept going, and you got to give them credit for that, because the expectation, and I heard this a lot, that it'll be the last 20 minutes, and I kind of expected Toulouse to fade off a little bit, but that's why it was so impressive, and you see what it meant to them at the end. So it's out of respect for Leinster. Leinster are still a phenomenal side, and I think 9 times out of 10, if they play that game again, they win it. They just got caught a little bit cold yesterday. The start, and Leo Cullen said that, even though they got back ahead, Toulouse were still in the game. There was 6 points in it. I think one more score and it could have been 20 points.
Yeah, it didn't feel comfortable for any point at Leinster.
No, and there was always the day. It just had that feel, Ger, that unless they get another score, a penalty or a try, at 6 points, Toulouse actually believe. And if the French believe, they can do. And they proved it.
That's the point about the crowd as well. One last point. You talked about O'Gara saying that there was no sense of pressure building up. There was no sense of Leinster being in control, even though they had a bit more possession in the second half. And that's kind of what we would have associated. Even if you think back to the Champions Cup final last year, like Leinster had the ability to march up the field and win a penalty against Racing in the final. They didn't feel like they could control the game against Toulouse for whatever reason.
It's coming from pressure, Ger, as well, and a little bit sloppy. So if you're a couple of % off, which Leinster maybe were at times with their accuracy, and they got a little bit frustrated by that pressure that Toulouse were putting them under in defence, and they were maybe a little bit surprised how well they were organised. Like I said, their back row was phenomenal. The amount of tackles, Verhaeg, the second row to Corey. So you have 5 guys there, big, strong, athletic guys who were getting through a bundle of work with the ball, without the ball. So if you're effective like that as a back 5, you're influencing the game a lot. And those 5 are really powerful. Marchand is a super player, the hooker. I think he'll start for France in November, if not November, the Six Nations, over Gurado, which is a big call. Faumina was brilliant. Castet, the loose head. So as a pack,
they're pretty
and
good.
maybe it's a case of Hugo Molo saying, lads, if we don't turn up here and play above ourselves and play with passion, desire and fight, we're going to get hosed at home here. And so it's amazing when your kind of stuff is on the line how players react. But like I said, Leinster just got a little bit shell-shocked about how good they were defensively, and then they weren't able to build those big number of phases. And even sometimes, look, they started the game, the second half, they were brilliant. They get the 2 tries, you think, it's sorted now.
On Saturday night in Paris, did Simon Zebo have to apologise?
No, he didn't. It's a load of rubbish, if you ask me. I think I wouldn't be happy if I was a player. I think if it was done internally, and if I was an Ulster player, I'd probably say to Zeebs after the game, stop being a smart arse, or he shouldn't have done that. He's only a young fella after coming into the team, have a bit of respect. And I think straight away the type of person he is hands up. But I don't think the referee has to get involved and say, you got to go over there and apologise.
That made a thing of it, really, because Michael Lowry wasn't really making it.
He wasn't. Now, Stuart McCluskey ran across with that. I'm probably the Stuart McCluskey running across the field saying, I'll kill you in the next ruck, or you're not getting away with that, whatever. But I think it's just blown out of proportion. He plays with a bit of a smile on his face, and he's eccentric. And
here's Zebo tweeted last night. Again, I'd say his adrenaline's still pumping through. Really sorry to Michael Lowry, got too excited. I don't do stuff like that as long as I played. I wouldn't like my kids doing that. I'm disappointed in myself. Made a mistake. Not in the spirit of the game. Keep up the great work. Sorry again. Does he not do it in training?
And you got to believe that. That's not. I'm putting out a statement after. I feel that he's telling the truth there. You know what I mean? He's not going, this is oh God, I got to do this for the PC, to be PC.
No.
I think he's genuinely means it.
Yeah, I do. But I do think that's I think that if he skins you in training, he'd be pointing at you and you would be going, I'm going to get him next time.
And that's what happens in training.
And that's what it looked like,
If one of the backs, or even Wally was the quickest one in our back row, and sometimes he'd run past you and he'd be laughing or jeering or stuff.
So there's the Nigel Owens picture of Nigel Owens going over and making a big deal out of it. Like, when it's not really
it's not his business. Look, it's not a big thing. Even him saying it, I'm not making a big thing about it, but it's kind of highlighting the thing a little bit more. And I don't know. It's just it's something that is storming a teacup, to be honest. And I'm glad Simon Zebo apologised and gave him his jersey and stuff. It would have been nice to hear that without being told you have to apologise, because that's where it would have been really authentic and good to hear that's good sport. Everybody makes mistakes in the field, and I think, like you say, it's stuff that probably happens in training and shouldn't have happened with Zeebs the other night. But
is Nigel Owens too much of a celebrity referee at this point?
He's a good referee. Anyway, we won't ever take that, because I know Nigel well and he's a good fella. But I just think he's sometimes is a bit too much.
At least they're preaching respect.
Yeah, no, in fairness, and Luke Fitzgerald used to be giving out about Nigel all the time, and saying he's a celebrity ref and he's getting too involved and he's saying too much. And it was brilliant, because Luke had done that a good few times, and we went to the Pro 14 Awards 2 years ago, and I was with Luke and Nigel walked in, and he was close by, and I pushed Luke right in front of him and I said, "No, Luke, say it to his face." Luke, he kind of sank down a little bit, and so I got him right in front of each other, and they had a chat and they were laughing about it. But no, I think he can take it as well. Sometimes there's just a bit too much talk, and a quiet referee sometimes is a good referee. Nigel Owens is a brilliant referee, there's no doubt about that. But I just think it's not his place to tell him about the values of the game.
Ulster did get spanked. That kind of has been a bit overlooked. It wasn't a game that they were in and that's really where they are at the moment. That's the truth of where Ulster are at the moment.
Unfortunately, yeah, they started well, and I actually thought they had a right chance going to Racing. I thought if they held on to the ball, they looked dangerous. They had a great start, 2 tries. You think this is going to be an historic win for them, possibly, if they keep going. But just their scrum went to tatters. Their lineup was sloppy and just falling off tackles. And when Racing just built that momentum and pressure that we're talking about there earlier, there was just gaps all over the place from. You think of the try, Ibrahim's try down the short side to make it, I'm not sure what, did that make it 17, 12? But the one off the scrum where they just disintegrated in the scrum, and it's Stockdale on his own with an 8-9, like it's very soft. So there's a few really soft scores in it. There was a knock-on for one of them that was missed, and it shouldn't be a try. But look, they blew him away. After 25 minutes, it was just all Racing after that, and they were very physical and manhandled Ulster, unfortunately.
It's a strange pool, isn't it, seeing what Leicester did to Scarlets then as well at the weekend. It could go either way. It's probably the most intriguing pool from a neutral perspective.
Yeah, Ulster are not out of it. They win their home games, and they pick up something. They take, so they're not out of it by any manner of means. They'll have to try and get an away win somewhere, whether that's in Leicester or in Scarlets. But look, they're not completely out of it. But that was a bit demoralising the way it finished in the end.
Yeah. All right, a lot of good stuff. Thanks for that. A reminder, OTB AM is live at Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Paul Kimmage and Gary O'Toole were on yesterday's Sunday paper review. You can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel, or you can listen back on the podcast. Here they are talking about Danny Cipriani's red card on Saturday against Munster.
The referees have obviously been told that you've got to come down harshly on this, and if they don't, well, then it's never going to stop, and there has to be zero tolerance. And Frano's right, if it was followed to the latter, they should have lost a second player, and I'm sure the Munster supporters wouldn't have minded that either.
Cipriani's reaction was great, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
Because I'm sure he was thinking, come on.
Really fantastic. And it's been an interesting weekend for that, because I get irritated and have been irritated quite a lot over the last year with rugby, and they keep pushing their values on us. And I look at, the drugs issue, the painkillers, the abuse of painkillers, the Grobber situation, and I'm wondering where the values are with important issues like that. I take my hat off to a lot of other areas in the game and in the way the players conduct themselves, and we had a lot of examples of that, a number of examples of that this weekend with Cipriani, who was superb in the way that he didn't argue with the ref, didn't plead with the ref. He looked across at who was the player?
Scannell.
Yeah, Scannell. Asked him was he okay, walked off. I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Get the whole thing on our YouTube channel or wherever it is that you get your podcasts, and OTB AM now also available for you on Spotify to podcast every day post-show.
I like Paul Kimmage's Augusta National tracksuit top. I haven't actually, he's been in the studio a few times, I haven't seen him wear it before. If I ever got to the Masters, and I know Kimmage has been to a few of them,
you're coming back with a big faux
I would be wearing that every single day. I would actually probably have a pimento cheese sandwich in here rotting away in my hand every single time I come into the studio saying, look at me, I went to the Masters. So fair play to him for not wearing that before and rubbing it in our faces, but I would buy that for about 200 quid.
The Amanda Stapleton Benefit Fund is something that we're getting right behind here and Off the Ball. We just want to let you know that tickets are available to purchase now for the Legends Return. It's a match on the 3rd of November where it is Kilkenny against Tip in Borrisalee. Tommy Walsh, JJ Delaney, Jackie Tyrrell, Henry Sheffin and Richie Hogan are going to be leading out the Kilkenny Legends 15, while Owen Kelly, Lar Corbett, Seamus Coleman, Paddy Maher, Brendan Cummins and Amanda's brother Paddy Stapleton are all going to be lining out for Tipperary. It's going to be some game. I'd say the over, and that is about 600 points. You can head over to tickets.ie to get tickets for the game. Also, Saturday week on Off the Ball, we're going to be running an auction for the Amanda Stapleton Benefit Fund in advance of the match on the 3rd of November. So do keep an eye out on that, and we'll keep you up to date on our social channels about how you can get involved. But there's loads of different ways for you to get involved. Even if you can't go down, you can still buy a ticket on tickets.ie for details on that one. Now, a reminder, you can watch back OTB AM on your YouTube channel after the show ends. You can also listen back to the podcast. It's up before 10 a.m. every morning, wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow morning on OTB AM, Champions League, and Lopetegui, is he still going to be in charge? starts? Is he going to make it in the next 24 hours? I don't know.
Well, we called it. We did do that piece last week saying he's going to be sacked.
The wages of sin are death, it turns out. Imagine you're looking at how good Spain are now, thinking, I could have fucking won the World Cup and then got the Real Madrid job. I could have just done that. I could have just waited another month and won the World Cup.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing.
But
you've got to take that big club job when it comes calling. You really do.
Or just sit with the Spanish team and go, we're brilliant.
You see, it's very easy to say that from our vantage point when we will never manage a top-class team.
He must have been getting $1 million a year for the Spain job.
Everything gets put into relative terms.
What's he getting now? Who's going to take Lopetegui after this? Ireland. We'd take him, would we?
Oh, yeah. Well, Ewan, if you want to come over and sample the delights of the Irish national football team, then we'll have you with open arms.
We talk about that. Also, the Tide 5, our brand new rugby slot on OTB AM with Neil Tracy. That's coming up for you on tomorrow's show. That is the end of days today. We're going out to, Owen's going to be, just making sure that there's no Kerry snipers out there looking to pick him off for bringing to national media attention their little local issue.
I'm sure
it's a local issue for local people, Owen.
I'm sure it would have come to national attention anyway, right?
I don't think so. It turns out that it was barely mentioned.
There's no.
In fairness to the Star, the one newspaper put it on their back page.
Yeah, they've got good quality images of it actually. Like, it's definitely not my camera because they're good quality images from my side. So there was obviously somebody else who got pictures of it. So I think I've got enough faith in humanity to suggest that it was nothing to do with me. Everything would have come out eventually, and it will be interesting to see what the fallout is.
That's his story, and he's sticking to it. But if you are part of the Dr. Croak's backroom team and you want to leak us the video footage, we'll be a good home for it. Go on.
They right inside of the Star have caught
an incident.
The incident,
which
I'm just after seeing here.
Sure.
Yeah, I might take a picture of it and put it up on the Off the Ball Twitter account because that is one hell of a shot. I didn't actually see it until now. On the back of the Star, it's a tiny little part on the back left, which shows a selector in an altercation with the number 10. Darren Moynihan, who went down in that side of the video that we
can zoom in there. Yeah, look, this is
that is
live. You keep going, yeah. You hold it there on. Hold it there, baby. Yeah. You can just see the spit there. You move it over into the middle.
Right hand side, on the right hand side.
You move it into the middle there on. Just move it. Yeah, that's wrong way. Camera left. It's hard to see exactly what's happening there, but there's definitely
that's the shot that was out of picture when we showed you that video earlier on.
It's a push. Like if I'm defending this, I'm defending it as it's a push, but. Anyway, it's not a great look for everybody involved with that football team. Right, that is your lot today. That story's going to run and run. Seamus Coleman versus Keith Andrews. That's also going to run and run. And Monday's up and running. See you tomorrow. Good luck.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.